The studio lights dimmed, casting a golden hue over the iconic orange backdrop of the Graham Norton show. The camera swept across the familiar stage. Graham's signature chair angled toward the infamous long red sofa, where this evening's only guest had just made his entrance. Former President Donald J. Trump. The crowd wasn't there tonight. By special request, the taping was closed to the public, giving the whole setup a heavier, more theatrical feel. Graham, of course, embraced the opportunity to stage what he called a more intimate conversation. His smirk suggested it would be anything but friendly. As Trump sat down, straightening his dark navy suit, he gave the cameras a confident half-smile. He looked around the studio with the air of someone who'd walked into a lion's den and intended to leave with the lion's mane. Graham leaned in. "Mr. Trump," he began, eyes twinkling with faux sincerity, "you've been called many things. Businessman, president, entertainer, dictator. Which one do you prefer?" Trump didn't flinch. "I prefer winner, Graham. It's a title I've gotten used to." The audience of producers and staffers gave an awkward chuckle. Graham grinned wider. "A winner indeed. I suppose bankrupting a few casinos and losing the popular vote twice still counts as winning in your world?" Trump's smile thinned just a bit, but his eyes stayed sharp. "I ran for president once, and I won. That's more than most late-night comedians can say. As for the casinos, I've made billions since then. And if you think I lost, maybe check who's still filling stadiums." Graham's voice rose slightly with mock incredulity. "But let's be honest. January 6th? Classified documents? Multiple indictments? Are you trying to run the country or audition for a Scorsese film?" Trump leaned forward, placing a hand on the glass coffee table between them. "What I'm trying to do is fix a country that your friends in the media helped break. You all laughed when I said the system was rigged. And now people are paying for eggs and watching their cities burn. The only crime I'm guilty of is not being part of your little elite club." There was a silence. Graham blinked but recovered quickly. "So no regrets at all? Not even the tweets?" Trump shrugged. "I regret not tweeting more. Maybe if I had, people would have seen through the lies faster." Graham folded his arms. "You really don't see the damage you've done?" Trump cocked his head. "I see the damage Biden's done. I see open borders, a collapsing economy, and weakness abroad. And I see people like you cheering it on because Trump made jokes about Rosie O'Donnell 15 years ago." A flicker of genuine surprise crossed Graham's face. He wasn't used to his targets pushing back this hard, or this effectively. Trying a lighter jab, he asked, Okay, let's talk legacy. When they write the history books, what do you hope they'll say about you?" Trump leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. "That I told the truth when nobody else would. That I put America first. And that I drove the left so crazy they exposed themselves on live TV, like right now." The camera slowly zoomed in as Graham pursed his lips, suddenly aware that the balance of power in the room had subtly shifted. Trump added, "You invited me here to mock me, but I came here to remind people that strength isn't always polite. Sometimes it's necessary." The first round was over, and Trump, bruised but unbowed, had just scored his first hit. The air in the studio felt heavier now. The playful arrogance on Graham Norton's face had faded into something tighter. Still theatrical, but with an undertone of frustration, Donald Trump sat solidly on the red sofa, one leg crossed confidently, hands folded like he was holding court at a rally instead of facing a talk show ambush. Graham adjusted his blazer and forced a chuckle. "You're very good at spinning a narrative, Donald. I'll give you that. In fact, sometimes I wonder, are you more politician or performance artist?" Trump didn't hesitate. "I'd say I'm a realist. But if speaking plain truth looks like performance art compared to the fantasy world your side lives in, then maybe you should ask yourself, who's really putting on a show?" There was a short pause. Graham blinked slowly, then tilted his head. "So you're telling me you genuinely believe you won in 2020? Even after your own attorney general said there was no fraud?" Trump leaned forward slightly. "Let me ask you something, Graham. If I lost so badly, why were they so afraid of me coming back? Why the censorship? Why the FBI? Why are they charging me with everything from breathing too loud to existing in DC? Graham replied dryly. Maybe because you have the subtlety of a wrecking ball? Sometimes a wrecking ball is what you need when the house is full of rats, Trump shot back. The line landed like a punch. Even Graham couldn't stifle a surprised laugh, though it came with a shake of his head. You love a good villain arc, don't you, Graham said. You've got your fans chanting your name like you're the main character of a dystopian novel. Trump grinned. Better to be the main character than the narrator who gets everything wrong. Graham stood his ground. But you've said and done things that, well, they hurt people. Muslims, immigrants, the LGBTQ community. Trump's expression hardened just slightly. What hurts people is weak leadership, crime on the streets, and children getting trafficked across the border because we pretend not to see it. You want to talk about compassion, but your idea of kindness is letting the world burn as long as you sound nice doing it. The temperature in the studio seemed to drop. Graham uncrossed his legs, his eyes narrowing. I suppose the idea of nuance doesn't sit well with you? Trump held his gaze. Nuance is fine, but cowardice dressed as nuance, that's the disease of our time. Graham paused, clearly trying to pivot the energy. He gave a sardonic smile. All right, now let's lighten it up. Hypothetical, you're back in the White House in 2025. What's the first thing you do, besides tweet? Trump didn't miss a beat. I shut the border, fire half the bureaucracy, bring energy independence back, and I defund every single department that's been weaponized against the people. And then, he added, eyes sparkling with challenge, I tweet, I'm back, and it's about to get fun. The camera zoomed slightly as Graham bit his lip, sensing the rhythm of the show slipping further from his grasp. He tried one final jab. You really think the public still wants you back after everything? Trump leaned toward him, the quietest he'd been all evening. They never stopped. You just didn't want to see it. They're not watching this show to hear you laugh at me. They're watching to remember why they trusted me in the first place. A beat of silence. And somewhere on every social media platform that had been streaming clips of the interview in real time, the comment sections were beginning to flood, not with mockery, but with applause. By the time the final segment of the show began, Graham Norton's posture had subtly changed. His earlier charm had faded into calculated composure, and although the smile never fully disappeared from his face, the twinkle of mockery had dulled. Donald Trump, still seated firmly on the red sofa, hadn't shifted much. He no longer needed to. He had controlled the tempo of the conversation, even as Graham fired shots from every angle. So, Graham began, swirling his glass of water dramatically like it was whiskey, I have to ask, do you ever get tired of fighting everyone? The media, Hollywood, even members of your own party? Isn't it exhausting being constantly combative? Trump tilted his head slightly. You don't fight when things are fine. You fight when the house is on fire. And I fight because too many people with microphones and champagne glasses like yours pretend everything's fine. Messaging down to a science, or maybe to an art form. Trump smiled. I've had to, Graham. When every news anchor, every tech platform, every actor with a Twitter account calls you Hitler for lowering taxes, you learn to speak loud and clear. The audience-less studio somehow felt fuller now, its silence more impactful than applause would have been. The tension wasn't hostile anymore. It was something closer to curiosity. Graham leaned in, one eyebrow raised. Let's drop the politics for a second. Do you think you've changed as a person? Trump hesitated for a breath. Yes, he said simply. I've seen what power can do. I've seen how deep the corruption runs. And I've seen how fast people sell their country out for a headline or a role in a Netflix show. Graham squinted. And do you ever feel guilt for the division, the rhetoric? Trump's answer was quieter than expected. I feel regret that I wasn't tougher sooner. That landed harder than anything he'd said all night. Graham tried to redirect. Wouldn't it be easier to just retire, golf, write a memoir, stay out of the chaos? Trump shrugged. Maybe, but I didn't get into politics to make life easy. I got into it because no one else had the guts to call out the rot. And apparently I still make everyone nervous enough to invite me onto shows like this to try and humiliate me. Graham straightened, Oh, come now, this isn't an ambush. Trump chuckled. You brought a knife to a gunfight, Graham. I'm just not the soft target you hoped for. And then came the moment no one expected. Graham sighed. I'll give you this. You're impossible to knock out. But I'd love to have a show one day where you don't dominate every headline for weeks. Trump grinned. You'll get your wish when the country doesn't need fixing anymore. That night, the episode aired with massive anticipation. Social media exploded. Within minutes, clips of Trump's retorts were trending globally. Sometimes the wrecking ball is necessary, the main character, not the narrator, and you brought a knife to a gunfight became instant viral quotes. On YouTube, the video titled Trump Dismantles Graham Norton in Unexpected Interview Showdown racked up over 18 million views in 24 hours. Even liberal-leaning influencers admitted, grudgingly, that Trump had handled the pressure with poise and punch. Conservative circles heralded the appearance as a political masterstroke. And undecided voters? Polling spikes in swing states showed their interest had been reawakened. Graham, for his part, remained gracious in post-show interviews. Look, he said, love him or hate him, the man knows how to own a stage. But the final word belonged to Trump, who posted on Truth Social the following morning. They tried to corner me. Instead, they handed me the spotlight. America is watching, and they're remembering. It wasn't just a talk show appearance. It was a media moment that reset the conversation. And once again, Donald Trump had left the stage, unshaken, undefeated, and undeniably the headline.